blanket. It might come in handy. It's not necessary, but it might make some of the poses we're going to do tonight even more comfortable. All right, so I'm going to scooch over to my mat. I'm going to put us on mute for now, but please, at any time during class, feel free to unmute yourself or chat me in the box so we can communicate with each other. You can let me know how things are going. So the first pose I want to try to get into tonight is going to be our gentle inversion, a little elevation for our back, so a heart opening, some countering to rounding for our spine, and a release for our shoulders. I think it's called like bubbling creek pose or something, but I'm doing a little bit different version of that. So it's kind of like making these little ripples for our body to kind of release major joints in our body. So let me kind of show you what this will look like. And as usual, other props that you want to have by are yoga blocks, towels, extra cushions, pretty much all the goods, yoga strap if you have one, just in case. So we always have a selection of poses. So what I'm going to choose to do is set up my chair with an additional pillow on it tonight so I can get a little bit more for my legs. If you do not have a piece of furniture or a chair nearby to use, forego the chair, it doesn't matter, and you'll just use the pillow. So if you don't have the chair, you will take one of your pillows or cushions and place it where your knees will be. Now we do want our low backs to make contact with the ground. So our second pillow is going to go perpendicular to our mat. A pillow might be a little bit much, and if it is, you can take a smaller blanket into a smaller rectangular fold and turn it perpendicular. And this is going to go into the arch of our back. So I'm going to sit on the mat, on the ground, and either swing my legs over the first pillow or up onto my chair, my sofa. And then I'm going to ease my low back, mid back over the pillow. Now, ideally, what we want to have at this point, and I have a blanket here for my head, is I want the shoulders to fall off the other side of the pillow. So my low back and very low back is connected to the ground. And then as I cactus my arms away from my shoulders and bend at the elbows, my shoulders and my upper arm bones are also touching the ground. So if you have too big of a pillow, that won't work. So you might want to move into a smaller folded blanket. But ideally, we have our legs supported in a position, hips are on the ground, low back's on the ground, not the flatter part of the low back, but you want to feel the bottom of your sacrum tailbone touching. And then the whole low mid back is supported. Shoulders to the ground. And then I added another folded blanket underneath my head. So I have these little rolling waves that I'm supported on. And again, if something feels a little too much, uncomfortable, then move it out of the way. Adjust your props accordingly. They aren't stuck in cement here. Our body isn't stuck in cement, so we can manipulate our props and surroundings until we get as comfortable as possible. But what we should feel is a nice lift, some gentle extension for our spine. Stretch those legs out. If they're more elevated, you can keep your thigh bones at a 45-degree angle. Drop the weight of those shoulders into the ground. And even the head could be touching the mat if you want a little bit more opening for the chest and the throat. Or like I said, give that head some support with the pillow. And hopefully this feels quite nice. So we get our chest heart opener, the counter to all the rounding and flexion we do throughout our day. We get to let go of tension in the neck and shoulders and arms. And we have that gentle inversion for the feet and legs. Again, undoing the effects of gravity throughout our day. So once we're in position, let's close our eyes. Any little movements we might need to do for the head to release the neck, finding the back center of the skull. A poof of the cheeks with air, wiggle out the mouth, tongue, and jaw. And then we'll press that pause button, letting go of where we came from, letting go of all of our to-do lists, and cultivating stillness in our bodies on our mats so that we can redirect our attention and awareness inward. Giving ourselves this opportunity to plug the body, the mind, and the spirit back in so that we can recharge our batteries from the inside out. Relax the whole body, all the muscles, loosen up all the joints. Our eyes have been working hard all day, so relax the little muscles around the eyes. Let the eyeballs sink into the sockets. Let go of any expression across the face. So we are training our mind and our body over time that when we place ourselves in these relaxing positions like Shavasana or other restorative poses, to relax and to do so almost spontaneously. So really let go here. Take a scan of the body and consciously relax any other areas that we might be holding on to any unnecessary tension or tightness. As we allow the weight of the body to sink into the ground over our props, we'll start to notice and feel the rhythm of our natural breath this evening. Just observe the body breathe. Taking time out of our day to spend a couple moments observing and watching the breath has a very calming effect on the nervous system, helps reduce our stress levels, anxiety. Begin to notice any subtle movements of the body with the breath. So depending on the support that we've taken under the body with our props, some of us might feel the breath moving a little bit more through the chest and the rib cage, especially if we're elevated a little higher up. Maybe we're feeling the rise and fall of the belly with the breath. You might even feel the breath swirling around in the throat or around the nostrils and the tip of the nose. We'll spend a couple moments here with our breath and we'll move into our Samavriti pranayama, our even or equal breathing. So at this time, the next time we inhale, we will mentally count the number we're breathing in. And when we get to our exhales, we will mentally count the same number back out. So we're trying to even and smooth our breath out. The inhale is an opportunity to expand and fill ourselves up with some fresh air and energy tonight. And those exhales are opportunities to clean the body out, to let go of any stress, worries we might be carrying around from our day. Now we might all be moving at a different count or a different rhythm, and that's fine. But over time, you might want to stretch and lengthen this breath out a little bit more. So as we're ready, we can start to add 1 or 2 counts to both our inhale and exhale, trying to keep them as even as possible. And then let's all take 1 more cycle of breath. And this time we will just try to take our biggest breath of our day yet. So when we get to that next inhale, We'll all take as much time as we need and we'll fill ourselves up as much as we can. Inhaling, expanding, and filling ourselves up to the brim. And when we've reached our maximum, the very top of that breath, we'll gently transition to our exhale and try to take our longest, biggest exhale of our day yet. So it'll put a little effort into this, a little bit of contraction, pushing the breath out. Gentle engagement of those abdominal muscles, drawing the navel to the spine to squeeze the breath out, like trying to get that last bit of toothpaste out of the tube. And then at the very bottom of that exhale, when we're totally empty, we will gently let go of trying to follow and control the breath for a moment. Let's come back into the body. And we'll start to make some little movements here on our body to wake it back up. We can start with the toes, giving them a little wiggle. Wake up the fingertips. Again, a rock of the head side to side as it is comfortable. Now again, depending where we are with our props in our space, some of us might be able to continue to stretch our arms overhead from our cactus arms and reach through those fingertips, spreading the fingers nice and wide. If we have our legs elevated, more up on a seat of a chair or piece of furniture, stretch one leg out at a time, flexing the feet, pointing and flexing the feet. If your legs are on the ground, over a pillow or a prop, point and flex the feet, giving them a nice big stretch. One more big breath in, spread those fingers, spread those toes. And on the exhale, we'll draw the arms back down beside us. Now stepping the feet in towards us, whether that's on the ledge of a piece of furniture or the floor. Now some of us might not be able to hug our knees all the way in, especially if you're elevated your spine on a pillow. So you'll just float your feet up off the floor just enough. Bring your right arm beside the head and we're gonna roll onto our right side. And we're actually going to pause for a moment here so the head can be cradled on the arm. Now take the left hand to the floor in front of the heart, gently press into the ground, and we'll take our time to bring our body upright. So we are going to come up off of our props here, and we're going to clear our space. So if you're sitting on the floor and we've added heavier props, it's going to be really important that you still move everything around mindfully. So make sure you're using your core and positioning yourself. Make every movement count. So we're going to clear our space here for a moment. Put this over here. And then we're actually going to come into a seated position. So hopefully we feel a little bit more length and space up the spine. So I would recommend using our support, whatever that usually is for our sit bones, so that we can sit up nice and tall. All right, good. So once we get ourselves into position, we can take any comfortable position in the legs. So that might be easy cross, heel to heel alignment. Move the flesh out of the way so that we do have our sit bones rooted onto our support. Sit up as tall as possible through that spine. Still feel that chest and heart opening here. Let's float our fingertips out beside the body. We'll turn the palms up and we'll take our just centering breath. Inhale, reaching those arms up towards the ceiling. On the exhale, palms down, float the fingertips to the floor. So last class, we were focusing on a lot of lateral extension or opening up our side bodies. We'll still do some of that tonight. So seated triangle, inhale that right arm up beside the ear. Make sure your sit bone stays connected. And on the exhale, let's lean it over to the left. Now we'll hold and breathe into this pose tonight. So stay anchored, low belly pulling in. Start to feel that stretch up through the waist, the hip, the rib cage, and shoulder. There'll be some weight here in that left hand, a little bend at the elbow. Keep breathing in and out through the nose. A little adjustment we can take is just to turn our drishti down to that bottom hand. If it's comfortable to keep the gaze forward, do so, or rotate the gaze upwards towards the ceiling. Just keep the neck nice and long. One more breath. On our next inhale, use those muscles to pull the body up through center. We'll switch arms, stretch up through the left arm, root that left sit bone, so don't let the hip come up, and then exhale over to our right. Again, we're breathing and holding the pose tonight. So push down, lift and lengthen up through that hip. Keep the neck long, moving in that lateral plane. Place some of your weight into the right hand. Fingers should be nice and wide. Slight variation is just to take the drishti down, rotating a little bit through the neck, or rolling the gaze forward and even upwards towards the ceiling. One more breath. Next inhale, go ahead and float that left arm up to the ceiling. Let's bring the right arm up to join it, both arms reaching upwards. Bring the palms to touch and exhale to our center. So we'll switch up the cross of our legs here. Continue to sit up tall through the crown of the head. Inhale, breathing. Let's reach those arms back up. We'll go into our gentle seated twist tonight. So on our exhale, we'll rotate and twist to our right first. We may try to reach for that opposite knee, fingertips reaching behind the body. Keep the shoulders and the chin parallel to the floor. Breathe into your twist, rotating all the way up the spine to the crown of the head. Open the eyes nice and wide, peek behind the body. Now we'll all take one more breath in. Hold the twist in the body. On our exhale tonight, just turn the head to look forward, just the head, and then try to peek over your left shoulder. So the body's twisting to the right, head is twisting to the left for a little counter twist for the neck. Big breath in. Our next exhale releases the twist. So the head and the body will release back to center. Inhale, both arms up. Keep this length, nice big stretch. Exhale, shoulders and chin stay parallel. Fingers may reach to opposite knee, towards the floor behind you. We're going to continue to wring everything out all the way up the spine through the crown of the head, the eyes. Look to that furthest point. Take one more inhale in the twist. Keep the twist in the body. As we breathe out, we'll rotate just the head, looking forward, and then trying to twist the head the opposite direction of the body as we peek over our right shoulder. Deep breath in. And on the exhale, we'll release our twist. So the head and the body unwinds back to face forward. Inhale, let's reach both arms up again. Bring the palms to touch. Exhale, hands to heart. So we're going to take one more seated pose tonight, and that's going to be Baddha Konasana. So if our legs are crossed, we just want to open our feet now so that the soles of the feet are touching and the knees are wide open. If we are seated up a little bit taller or our knees need extra support, take your blankets, roll them up, place them underneath those knees. We won't press down on our knees tonight. What we will do is try to press the four corners of the feet together. So I want you, or you can think about the anatomical 3 points of the feet for this one. So pressing the centers of the heels together, the mound of the big toe, mound of the pinky toe, but flare your toes away from each other. So those 3 points are pressing together. Ideally, if we look down, we see a nice almond shape all the way through the floor, through the arches of our feet. If the feet come flat together, this is a great exercise to do to help build up those shock absorbers or the arches of the feet again. Now we can take a hold of the feet or the ankles. It's important to keep our nice long spine, so we shouldn't be rounding or hunching through the back. Take a nice deep breath in. On the exhale, some of us might be able to tip a little bit more forward at the pelvis. Again, the spine stays long. I'm not tucking and rounding, hollowing out the belly. I'm leading with that heart in the chest. And that'll give us a little deeper stretch through those hips. If we feel any pinching, pain, discomfort around the knees, we need to back off. If this strains the low back, back off. Now, some of us might be able to continue to move in this pose tonight, walking the hands forward. And we are still at the beginning of our practice, so we don't want to ever force or push our body into a pose. But if you happen to have a little bit more natural flexibility or flexibility from your day, you may continue to walk your fingertips forward, even take a prop in front of your feet if the head is close to touching down, and you may come into a fuller bow. The rest of us continue to press those 3 points together, keep the spine long, and we're all going to take one more breath. The next inhale will lead us back up out of the pose. So if you've bowed forward, walk your hands back in. Inhale up through the crown of the head. Good. Take a hold of those outer knees. Once you sit up tall, float the knees up. We're going to step our feet wider than our hips. Fingertips are going to come behind us to support, and just do some gentle movement side to side to help loosen up those hips. And then we're going to move into that variation of Christina's pose or variation of deer pose tonight. So we're going to let both of our knees move over to the right. You will take your left foot and start to bring it out to the outside of the hip, and bring your right foot towards the top of the thigh. And then ideally both knees have dropped down. Now we're still up on our support, which is fine. If you want to try to slide your folded blanket or support for your sit bones out of the way, and if you're able to sit flat to the floor with your sit bones, you may go there. I'm going to keep my support tonight just to make sure I'm sitting up nice and tall, still get the benefit of the pose. Your left foot can be farther out or in. That kind of just depends on the flexibility around your hips and the comfort for your knees. So I'll show us the modification first, and then we can increase this movement as we like. Our right hand will come down to the ground. This eventually may bear weight. You want to make sure your knees have cushion. So you're either totally on your mat, or if you need it, take one of your blankets and place it underneath the knees. So I'm in a position where I feel like I'm comfortable and my knees are on my mat. So if you need to adjust there, please do so. Okay, so right hand down to the ground, modification first. All we're doing is inhaling the left arm up over the ear, and we're going to move into that lateral extension again. So we're just stretching out the right side up through that hip. And then on the exhale, you bring the hand down. That felt good, stay there. If you want a little bit more, you got to take care of those knees. On our inhale, press into the ground through the right hand, lift the hips up. So this is where we want our knees to be comfortable. Reach the left arm over the ear, and we get into a bigger lateral stretch. Open the front of the hips. Exhale, we'll bring it down. So we're going to do that 2 more times. You choose your variation. Inhale, if you're lifting your hips, you can give your glutes a little bit of a squeeze. You may look upwards if you want more for the chest. Exhale down. You can also use this pose to stretch out the upper back and shoulders a little bit. So on the next inhale, when you lift up and reach up and over, you look down to the ground, and you'll feel that nice big stretch up through the left shoulder blade. Exhale, release. We'll meet back down on the ground. We'll bring both fingertips back behind us. You can lean back. Carefully plant the right foot back out, the left foot back out. Give your knees a little rock side to side. So same thing other side. We'll start to let our knees fall over to the left. We'll bring our right foot off to the side of the hip and our left foot towards the top of the thigh. We want to sit up on our sit bones. Ideally, both sit bones are equally weighted and our spine is long and tall. Again, I'm up on my cushion a few inches. You're more than welcome to try to sit flat to the floor. So what we have is external rotation in one hip and internal rotation in the left hip. So again, depending on how we're structured in our hips, it'll feel a little bit differently side to side. Bring that left hand down. Make sure your knees are on your mat or have a little additional cushion if they need it. Keep your hips down for the first one. Inhale, reach the right arm over the ear. Lean to the right, stretch that side. Good. Exhale down. Repeat with that modification, or press into the ground with the left hand. Lift those hips up. You'll roll onto the shin bones of the knees, and you'll reach the arm over. Exhale down. We'll do it 2 more times if you just want to explore the subtle difference. The next inhale, you'll look up and reach back and up. Exhale. And one other variation is to look down and you reach up. You can kind of round a little bit to the upper back to stretch the shoulder. Exhale, bring it down. Fingertips reach behind. Float the left foot out, right foot out, rock it out. So we'll make our transition now to all fours or tabletop. You can swing your feet around, walk it around, however works best for your body. Clear your space of props or add props as needed. Spread those fingers nice and wide, hands as broad as the shoulders. Press down into the ground, draw the low belly in, and we'll stack our knees right underneath our hips. So the knees and the feet are a few inches apart. You're welcome to keep your toes tucked under. Those feet need a little bit of a stretch or point through the toes. Cat-cows. On our inhale, relax the belly. Lengthen the spine, so create space through the vertebra from the tip of the tail to the crown of the head. Exhale, draw that belly in. Scoop the tailbone under. Open up the back of the heart. Look to the belly button. Follow that nice, smooth, even breath in and out through the nose. Inhaling, gentle back bend. Exhale, rounding into flexion. So we can do one more of each, or maybe hang out in one of these if our back needs a little bit more back bending tonight, or a little bit more rounding for our muscles. And then we're going to come back to tabletop or all fours, and we're going to do our modified side plank position. So take the top of the left foot and kickstand it out to the long edge of your yoga mat. Stretch the right foot straight back behind to the ground. The ball of the foot is to the floor. Toes are tucked under. The weight is going to come down to that left hand. Press it into the ground. Pull the belly in. Start to rotate to the instep of the right foot. Take weight out of the right hand. Now we're trying to stack our hips. So I'm opening my hips. I'm lifting up the left side. Right shoulder on top of left shoulder. Right hand can stay on the hip, or reach it up to the ceiling with the palm facing forward. Make sure the head stays in line with the spine. I know the head wants to get heavy and hang, but try to keep it in line with the spine. A little bit more of a lateral stretch. Turn your palm to face down towards the ground as you reach the right arm over the ear. Big stretch for the whole right side of the body. Now inhale that right arm up. Try to squeeze the side body, the right glute. Flex your right foot. And let's see if we can hover our right foot parallel to the floor tonight. We're breathing. One more big breath in. So this is modified side plank. On the exhale, we'll lower the instep of the right foot down. Look down and unwind out of the pose. So the hand, the hips, and the knees and feet all come back to tabletop. We're always welcome to rise up on our fingertips in Hasta Bandha if our wrists want to break, or fists for wrists. And follow the breath for a few rounds of cat-cow. Inhaling, gentle back bending. Exhale, rounding and stretching. Again, we'll balance ourselves out and meet in neutral position, and we'll take that same pose on the other side. So we'll slide the top of our right foot out at an angle off the long edge of the mat. That's just going to help with our balance. Now extend the left foot straight back from the hip. Toes are tucked under. Right hand and arm do the work. Cross through the hand. Start to take weight off the left hand.
Roll to the instep of the left foot. Pull your right side up away from the ground. Stack the hips, opening the hips. Stretch the left hand to your hip or all the way up to the ceiling with the palm facing forward. Nice. Be mindful of where the head is in space. Keep that neck long. Press through the first knuckles in the right hand to help distribute the weight out of the wrist. Big lateral stretch. Turn the palm towards the ground as we reach the left arm over the ear. And we should get a nice big stretch through the whole left side of the body. You're still pulling the right side up away from the ground. Good. Inhale that left arm up to the ceiling. Shoulders are stacked. A little bit more power. Squeeze your left side body, left glute, abductors. The foot is flexed and try to hover the left leg just parallel to the floor and breathe. This is also a modification for that half moon pose that we attempted the other day. Kind of helps build up that muscle memory. Big breath in. Exhale, lowers down to the instep. Look down, unwind. Hand, hips, knees, and feet. We should all end up back in tabletop. Fingertips, fist for wrist. Couple rounds of our cat-cow. And then we're going to take this into our wide-kneed child's pose tonight. I do invite you, if you like, to use those pillows tonight to turn this into more of a restorative child's pose. Not necessary if you need more of a shoulder stretch and you really want to sink that heart towards the ground as you extend your arms, you may. We'll open our knees wide, touch the toes. You're also welcome to take those pillows behind the hips so you have something to sit on. If you want the more restorative version, we take our pillows or bolsters long-wise in front of us. I'm going to add an additional folded blanket towards the top of my pillow. You can leave a little bit of space here between the short end of the pillow and your pubic bone so the belly has a place to sink into. And then we just melt the body down onto that support. And it usually feels nice to turn the head one direction of this restorative version and to hug the arms underneath our pillows. So you're kind of wrapping your arms around. Now you're also welcome to have those hands extended, forehead to the ground or prop. So you can kind of play with that, manipulate your props accordingly. If we have the support of the bolsters, we can drop the weight of the shoulders and just kind of sink into it. Now, if the head is turned, we will hold for several breaths. So about halfway through, we'll turn our head the other direction to counter twist the neck. If we're choosing the more traditional version without the props, continue to sink the heart and the head to the ground, either extending those fingertips forward or using the hands as a support for the forehead. Even closing the eyes tonight so we can just give our low backs a nice big stretch. Release around the hips and the hip creases. Try to let go of any tension or expression on the face. Those of us that have the head turned, we will counter twist the neck, so you'll turn your head the opposite direction, and we will take a few more breaths. If this is a little bit much on those knees and you need to lift the body up to tabletop or give your legs a quick stretch, you're always welcome to do that. There is purposeful compression now at the knee joint, so we're actually restricting some blood flow down into the legs, and we'll get a nice big benefit for the knees and circulation for our legs when we release the pose. One more breath. So
So those of us with the props and the head turn, bring your chin forward, bring the hands underneath the shoulders so that we can push into the ground to bring our bodies up off of our props. We'll slide them out of the way. We'll all walk our hands back forward, float those hips up, restack the knees under the hips, open up the feet slightly, and now we're going to give those legs a nice big stretch to let the blood rush back through. Doesn't matter which leg you start with, just keep your low back and hips level, one single stretch at a time. Open up the eye of the knee, and then you can give the other leg a nice big stretch. Should feel really good. Keep equal weight in both hands and go a couple times side to side. You can take a full breath in each leg. Once we've balanced that out, we'll tuck the toes under. Fingers are nice and wide, hands are broad as the shoulders. We'll draw our low bellies in, and we're gonna lift it up and back into down dog to continue to stretch out the legs, get the blood flowing. Let the head float between those upper arms. Another little inversion here. Pedal those heels, one heel at a time to continue to stretch out the backs of the legs. Make sure your shoulders are strong, but drawing away from the ears tonight. And that we're simultaneously rooting through the mound of the index finger and thumb. And then find some stillness in our downward facing dog. Sink the heels towards the floor. Bend into those knees as needed for the low backs, and take one more breath. Next inhale, looks forward. Step feet to hands, hands to feet, Uttanasana, forward fold. Taking those modifications, knees bent, elbows or hands resting on the thighs. Are going a little bit deeper tonight, ragdolling, hands to elbows. Keep the legs strong, the belly's in. We can stretch out our shoulders, release the head and neck, staying upside down for another breath or two. Good modifications, love to see it. Tonight we're gonna roll it up. So we'll all want to micro bend our knees, place our hands on our thighs with our fingers turned inward, tuck the chin to the chest, and on the inhale, round up. So you're stacking one vertebra on top of the other. Super strong legs, draw that belly in. Inhale, inhale, inhale. The head should be the very last thing that comes up. Once we're gazing forward, we'll purposely give our shoulders a little bit of a squeeze up. And then exhale, drop the shoulders away from the ears, float the arms out. Just kind of check in here. Make sure we have our balance, our blood pressure is regulated, and we'll parallel our feet. And then let's turn those palms out. Inhale, reach it up, big stretch. Palms touch, exhale, hands to heart. Let's add the feet. Inhale, draw that big circle. This time the heels are gonna lift with the fingertips. Exhale, lower. And again, inhale, big stretch up. You can try to look up when you reach up. This is getting a little easier to do this pose. That'll change things. Exhale, yeah, I'll make things a little more weeble wobbly. One more. Inhale, get as tall as you possibly can. You want to challenge, look up to your fingertips. Exhale, lower it down. So we're going to come into another variation of Ardha Chandrasana tonight. This is going to be that lateral extension for our side bodies. If you are working with your balance, it just provides more stability for your body, your back. You may keep your feet hips width apart. Otherwise, step the insides of the feet and legs to touch. We're going to interweave all 10 fingers in our hands, but then you release the index finger so you create this arrow shape in the hands. We try to glue our palms to touch. On the inhale, you reach your arms straight up overhead. Now, in this pose, we generally say shrug the shoulders from the ears. If we're going to concentrate a little bit more on the side body, you may pull your shoulders up to stretch out this part,
But if that creates tension in the neck, keep your shoulders down. So some people like to wiggle their shoulders up by their ears so that the attention comes here through the rib cage. Now you really got to squeeze and compact your hips, so tighten up the glutes. It's also really important to pull that front body to back body. My low back people, you will not go as far. You might just be doing more movement through your arms. We'll take a big breath in. On the exhale, we're going to reach up and over to our right, and your hips can move slightly to the left. It's also important, those of us like to jam our knees backwards, unlock your knees. Shin bones slightly forward, thigh bones back, belly's in. Engage Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor. Let your right arm do most of the work. The head can actually relax on the right arm. Press the gas pedal with the left foot down into the ground if you want a little bit more. Notice the breath. Try one more breath. Your heart and throat should be open to the front. Next inhale, contract the left side to lift the body up to vertical. Exhale, slide along that invisible wall. Reach up and over to the left. Your hips move to the right. You're in a lateral plane. Knees should be parallel to each other. Unlock, shin bones forward, thigh bones back. Pull up to the pelvic floor. Left arm does the majority of the work, making this crescent moon shape in our body. The head can almost relax. Press the gas pedal with that right foot to intensify the stretch. One more breath. Inhale, we pull ourselves all the way back up to center. On the exhale, we're going to take a very gentle back bend. So we draw the head of the arm bones back. The back of the neck stays long, the chin floats up, and we try to take that drishti one more time up to the ceiling. Now engage the glutes. Those of you that have a little bit more mobility, you may press your hips forward, bringing the upper back slightly back, hips push forward, equal weight in the feet. One breath here. Inhale, pulls the whole body back up to center. On the exhale, release your grip, turn your palms out, and float the arms down beside the body. When they come into Tadasana, pause for a moment. Let the weight of the shoulders fall from the ears. You might feel a little tingling sensation through the fingertips as the blood rushes back down into the fingertips. That's normal. That is a big, powerful pose. Let's take one more breath here. Good. So we might need to rearrange ourselves again here on our mats. We're just going to do one more standing pose, our triangle pose. So if you need to come back to the center of your mat, face along as your mat, do so. Bringing the fingertips to the heart and inhale, taking a big step out. Now, I didn't say to grab any knee props. I personally like to practice more unsupported triangle and keep the body more upright. However, you are more than welcome to grab yoga blocks mindfully and place them to the front and back of your yoga mat, or even have a chair ready for you. Otherwise, we'll stay strongly connected to our core muscles to stabilize the body. Arms will float out from the shoulders. The feet are parallel to each other, toes pointing forward. Inhale, float those right toes up at the hip. You're rotating the thigh bone open, and the toes point to the short end of the yoga mat. Again, my knee hyperextenders, if you're jamming your knees backwards, unlock them a little bit. We'll take a little tip in the pelvis, so we'll draw the right hip crease in, both side bodies lengthen, wrap those deep muscles around the waist. You can extend forward slightly on the inhale, and exhale, windmill the arms. So right arm, palms are facing forward to the inside of the thigh. Still getting a nice stretch up the inside of this right leg. There's that rod running through the spine, out the crown of the head. If you have the flexibility and mobility to go a little further and you'd like to reach your fingertips towards a yoga prop or the floor, you may. There should not be any rounding in the spine here. So the spine should be erect and long. Left shoulder back. Equal weight in both feet. Drishti may look down. Knee should be pointing to the middle of the foot. Gaze may stay forward or gazing upwards to that top thumb. Good, nice alignment. 2 more breaths in the pose. So it's that next inhalation that pulls the body up out of the pose. The legs are strong, the core's got to do the work. We reach up out of the pose to the ceiling, paralleling the arms. Exhale, turn the right toes straight forward. Hips and shoulders are open. Inhale, left toes out. You're opening up at the hip to point the toes forward. The hips and the heart should stay open. Unlock those knees, root the 4 corners of the feet, slight tip in the pelvis, draw that left hip crease in, equal length through both side bodies. Inhale, little extension forward. Exhale, windmill those arms. Good. Think about that rod running up the spine, out the crown of the head. So the head shouldn't be kinked or crooked. If it's rotating, it's in a rotation around the axis of the spine. Nice adjustments. That bottom hand, palm faces forward, may press into that knee. If we look down, our knee should be pointing to the center of that foot. We can use that inner thighs, a little bit of leverage. If you are taking it a little further, fingertips to a proper the floor, just move with your breath, receiving this nice stretch up the inner thigh back of the leg. Draw that right shoulder blade back. Maybe the drishti goes to the top thumb. 2 more breaths. And again, it's that next inhale, strong feet, strong legs that pulls us all the way back up out of the pose, arms parallel. Exhale, turn the toes forward. Let's drop our arms down for a moment and just swim them out a couple times. Let them get a little noodly here. At this point, we'll heel toe our feet in, or just give them a little step in. Now we want our feet to be wider than our hips. We're not in our wide stance, but a little bit wider than our Tadasana. And we'll play a little bit with our one-legged balance before we come down to the ground. Take a big breath in, draw a big circle with the fingertips, palms up, reach up. Bringing those palms to touch, exhale to the heart. So our star pose, we'll lean our body over onto our right foot and leg. Press the right foot through the floor, start pulling up through the lower bandhas. Try lifting and lowering those left toes. We want to keep it on the gentle, soft side tonight. Hover the arms out beside the body, nice. Pretend like we're balancing on that tightrope. The drishti is fixed on one spot that can be soft. A little bit more dynamic, strengthening, flex the feet, spread the fingers and toes, lifting the body up. This can almost turn into our half moon pose, except our bottom foot usually is turned out. But if you want to play with a little bit of tipping and tilting and kind of moving that lateral space, squeezing that left side a little bit more, you can kind of play with it. Or just reach or stay in your hover. Wherever we are, 1 more breath. Take another inhalation in the pose. Our next exhale, softly release the pose. Come right back to center into this wide stance Tadasana. Fix the gaze, keep the concentration. Inhale, palms up, arms up. Palms touch, exhale to center. Lean the body weight over to the left, push the left foot through the floor. When you push down to the floor, you should feel this lift and get light. If you're sinking your body down, you're not going to get that lift. But if you push through the floor, this side will start to get lighter. Start to play with the balance. Release those arms, see if we can get into a soft hover. Maybe add a little bit more strengthening, stability, lifting, extending. Now I got to tone and squeeze the whole right side. If I want to play with a little bit of leaning, just be careful of those low backs. You might try to lift the leg a little higher, kind of move into that lateral space of Ardha Chandrasana. Good. Wherever we are, one more breath. And then one more inhale in our pose. When we get to our next exhale, we'll try to land as softly and gracefully as possible. Let the arms come back down beside the body. Fix the gaze, take a breath. Inhale, palms out, arms up. Big stretch. Palms touch. Exhale to center. So we'll rearrange ourselves again one more time, working our way back to the top of our yoga mats in Tadasana with the feet parallel. Stand nice and tall here, equal weight in the feet, draw front body to back body, float the head on the shoulders. Again, big breath in, draw a big circle, reach out to the sides, palms up, slight back bend, drishti to the thumbs overhead. On the exhale, micro bend those knees, swan dive the arms wide and back, and we'll revisit whatever our forward fold is tonight. Modify, take it back down, release the head, the shoulders, prance the legs. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to shins or higher. Open the heart, drive the shoulder blades down the back. Next, exhale, bends the knees, plant the hands, and we're going to take a big step back into downward facing dog tonight. So fingers are wide, hands are wide. Feet are parallel to each other. Toes point forward, heels sink towards the ground. Bend the knees as needed. Shrug the shoulders away from the ears. Draw that belly in, belly towards the thighs, stretching out the whole back of the body. One more breath. On this inhale, lift your heels up as high as you can, stretching those toes out. On the exhale, we're going to drop our knees to the ground, point the toes, and sit back in another child's pose. Try to let the head come to the ground or stack your hands under the head. Hands can also slide back to the feet, releasing the shoulders down towards the ground. Nice big stretch for that low back. If you want even more, take your hands on your low back and take a hold of a wrist with the opposite hand. So you're just grabbing one wrist across the low back, allowing the shoulders to fall down. And then switch wrists, grab a hold of the opposite wrist if you're trying that variation. And then release the hands underneath the shoulders, tuck that chin, and inhale, round it on up. So we can shift our way over to either hip, it doesn't matter. We're gonna get set up for one more restorative pose tonight. This is gonna be a restorative prone twist tonight. So this is can be a really yummy pose for our backs and just to kind of gently bring everything out. You may only need one pillow or a nice folded blanket. You might want to have two pillows. You might want to have a pillow and a blanket. It kind of depends on how far we're able to rotate and how far we are able to come down towards the ground. So let me kind of show you where we're going, and then you'll be able to set yourself up. I would recommend moving more towards the middle of your yoga mat. And you'll want to have your knees like we did earlier, where our feet are off to one side and our knees are following forward. But I do want us all to be on the same side, or my left and right won't make sense. So we are going to start with our pillow to our right hand side. And with our knees, if we were facing the short end of our mat facing forward, our knees, that's gonna mess me up, I'm mirroring. Our pillows are to the right and our knees should also be falling to the right. Let me just say it like that. So left foot is out to the left. Your right foot is to the top thigh. That's kind of where we want to start. That's just the gist of it. We'll rearrange things a little bit more here in a second. So let me show it to you if you're familiar with this pose, and you can kind of work your way into it. So I'm gonna have my 2 pillows, one on top of the other, waiting for me here off to the right-hand side of my body. And I'm gonna take my blanket and just hit a longer rectangular fold, just so it's not so thick. I just wanna have a little bit of cushion. And what's going to happen is I'm going to take my right knee and point it more forward, and then stack my left knee on top of the calf. So now both knees are more off to the side of my mat, and this ankle is sitting in the well of that bottom foot. And what happens is the bones on top of the bones sometimes just don't feel good. So you'll take your blanket across that inner calf and ankle. So when you lay this leg on top of it, it has a little bit of cushion. Now the trick to this pose is we're sitting on our right hip here. You're going to turn to face your pillows. So the fingertips are going to come over to the right. Instead of sitting on the right buttock, we'll lift up our right hip and come to the outside of the hip. This is going to lift your left hip up. We're going to need that ability so that can give us more of a twist. So now we're facing the pillows. Knees are pointing forward. You might have a little extra cushion there. You don't need it, but you might want it. Then we want to lift and kind of get up on the outside of that hip. Now I'm going to take my pillows and slide them in towards me, and my hands are framing either side of the pillow. Now for some of us, we'll line our heart forward to the top of our pillows. Gazing forward, I'm going to start to walk down, but I'm going to keep my head looking forward. So I'm not going to make that twist go all the way up into my neck. Same thing, I can kind of hug my arms over. And then the hips, I might want to lift them up again and get more to the outside of the hip. The belly's turning towards the pillows. It's not quite there. That's okay. Now, some of us might have a little bit more space to move in. Maybe I want to try it with one pillow. And I'm going to start to lower myself down. But this time, I'm going to turn my head into the twist, away from my knees, and bring my arms around the short end of my pillow. So now I'm taking that twist all the way up to the crown of the head, and my head is turning away from my knees. And eventually you want your heart to sink flat down towards the floor. It's supported, but it's facing towards the floor. Your shoulders are square. Your hips are a little staggered because your knees are staggered. If this feels good, you can always add the head in a little bit. You can take away or add props. And we're going to hold the supported twist for several deep breaths. And just allow gravity to help bring everything out here. Remember, when we hold these poses a little longer, if you feel like you do need to come out sooner, you just reverse out of the pose with your breath. Otherwise, we're going to try to take 2 more deep breaths in this pose. Focus on the exhale, focus on letting go and releasing tension and tightness out of the body, stress and worries out of the mind. Now to come out of the pose, press the hands into the ground. If the neck is turned, first unwind the head, lift it up a little bit and look straight down to the ground. And then you'll inch your hands in towards you. And you got to use your hands to lift the body back up off the pillows. And then once you come back up on your hip and you sit upright, you can release. So for you all, I kind of was trying to mirror you and facing you when I cued that one, but to come out of the pose, keep your pillows where they are. Bring your hands around to the hips and float your knees up so that you're facing away from your pillows. You can move your blanket out of the way for a minute. Hands come beside and back behind the hips. Feet are wider than the hips, and do your little rocking movement with your knees. So you can actually keep your pillows where they are. You'll just end up facing the other way. So you might be facing away from the camera. If you don't want to do that, you'll have to move your pillows to the other side of the hips. So from here, all we need to do is if we stay in this position with our back towards our pillows, you'll let your knees fall away to the other direction. So they're pointing the opposite direction. You're gonna stack your calf to the well of the bottom foot. You can take that folded blanket on top of the bottom inside of the calf and the ankle, so you have a little bit of padding between your top leg and bottom leg. The knees aren't stacked, they're staggered. You'll walk your hands around. You'll lift up your bottom hip so that you can come to the outside of the hip. So you're not sitting on the buttock anymore. You're kind of lifting it up and drawing it away from the body so you can create length. And then you continue to try to rotate so that the belly and the heart are facing those pillows again. You can slide them in to support the body. And same thing, you'll walk your hands down, lowering the belly and the chest onto the pillows. You may keep your head the same direction as the knees. You may need to adjust the hips again. Just keep giving them a little lift, a little stretch away from the props. Those of you that want to take it further, heart faces towards the floor. You continue that twist up the neck and you turn your head the opposite direction of the knees. And maybe that only lasts for a breath or two. The arms can wrap around the support. We'll hold for several moments here. Slow, easy, but deep breaths in and out through the nose. Let go. Relax the body. And we'll try 2 more breaths on this side. After that last exhale, hands underneath the shoulders, press down so that we can release the head. If it was twisted, look straight down to the ground. Press into the ground to peel the body up off of our props. Once you come up, you can lean onto that lower hip, bringing the body upright. You can keep those props behind you. Move the blanket if it's there. Face away from your props, coming back onto those sit bones. Open the feet a little wider. Hands to support and rock your knees side to side. So that's a really nice pose if it felt good for you to help release tension down into that low back. You get that nice twist for the body, but you're supported. It's a little different. We often do twists on our back or seated. So that's more of a prone twist. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to come down and take our final relaxation. If you enjoyed that brook pose that we started in, creating those waves through the body, you can come back to that tonight. So you would turn one pillow perpendicular to the floor. That will support your low back and mid back so your shoulders and head can fall to the other end. Your sit bone should still be connected to the ground. You can add additional pillow underneath the knees, the feet, or even lift your feet up onto a higher support. And then if your shoulders and arms hit the ground, but you want a little lift for the head and neck, you can add that as well. And of course, you can place your body into any position that works best this evening. So we need a little bit more heart opening, a countering to flexion and rounding. Add that additional support under the low and mid back. Cactus those arms, shoulders and the backs of the hands. The back of the head falls to the ground. If we need to take some weight out of those feet and legs, give them some nice support. Gentle inversion, especially at the end of our day, very calming and soothing, help improve the quality of our sleep. Even placing props on top of the body. So if you get an extra blanket and you want to place it on top of the body, those eye coverings, whatever it is that we want to bring into our practice. So it'll give us a moment to get organized. We'll give ourselves an extra minute or two tonight to just relax, eyes closed. Once we're in position, poof the cheeks with air, wiggle out the mouth, tongue, and jaw. Making any last adjustments in the shoulders, the hands, the feet, the back. And just like we started, we'll press that pause button, cultivating stillness, avoiding any unnecessary movements, letting go of controlling our body, letting go of controlling our breath. Allowing everything to just simply be. Allowing ourselves to simply be and breathe. Relax the whole body. Soften and relax the inside of the body. All of the internal organs. You might even notice a subtle rise and fall of the belly with a gentle breath. If the mind wanders, we gently bring it back to this peaceful breath as we give ourselves permission to take just one more moment today to let go, to feel a sense of surrender, and to sink into Shavasana.
So let's start to come back to the natural rhythm of our breath. And breathe life back out into our body as we wake up our toes, our fingertips, a rock of the head side to side. Roll those ankles and the wrists. Depending where we are with our props in our space, some of us might be able to reach our arms all the way overhead to our long body stretch for a moment. Point those toes, flex the feet, straighten the legs out one at a time or both together down the mat. Our next exhale, walk the feet in. If you're able to hug the knees in, you can do a little hugging in, but if you have the support underneath the spine, you'll just want to float your feet up enough to roll to one side. So we'll keep one arm beside the ear. We're going to roll onto our side. Pause for a moment. And then we'll keep our eyes soft or closed, pressing down into the ground. Gently bringing the body back up. Just one more time to find any comfortable seated pose and to finish our practice together tonight with a couple more breaths. Finding those sit bones, sitting up tall for the crown of the head. Being mindful of our surroundings and our props, we'll float the fingertips up beside the body. Turning the palms up, big breath in to reach those arms up. Inhaling the arms up to the ceiling and gathering up everything we need for the rest of our evening. Turn the palms out, big breath back out, floating the fingertips all the way back down to the floor and letting go of all that other junk we don't need to take into our evening. And then one more time, let's inhale our arms up. Bringing the palms to touch. Exhaling the hands down in front of the heart and humbly bowing our head to our heart. Honoring and thanking ourselves, our bodies, each other, and anyone else that made it possible for us to practice our yoga together today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace, peace.